Thank you, guys. Yeah. There we go. I went to West Virginia also. I'm glad I didn't see you. Anyway, I saw for the first time in the first quarter someone throw up all over the people in the row in front of them. I've never seen that in any athletic event I've been to. And we were 3 minutes after kickoff and it was rolling. So anyway, and then he blamed it. He blamed it on he had too many layers of clothes on. And it was 52 degrees. So anyway, it's great to have a good friend of mine, Barry Hinson, on the Oklahoma State basketball staff. He's a Marlow native, 1983 Oklahoma State graduate, coached quite a while in high school, ended up being the head coach at ORU, Missouri State, Southern Illinois. We're really glad to have him back. After he's done today, you're not going to be able to determine if he's an assistant basketball coach or if he's a stand-up comedian. So Barry, come on up. Thanks.
I don't. If I get behind that podium, you never see me. I kind of. Well, I know. Is it on? Y'all audio? You damn Zoomers! All right. Here's what I kind of feel for the. I get a feel for the room, and these are a couple things I want to talk about real quick before we go. If that's the most F-bombs you've ever heard, you've never sit next to me when Avery Anderson turns the ball over. We had 2 people introduce their better halves. At my house, it's about 25%. And the closer we get to Christmas, it's about 10% for me. So I was not a veteran, but I feel like I am. I've been married 40 years, so I feel like I've served in the armed forces. And then for you people that, let's see, dairy farm, who's my dairy farm people? I judged dairy farm at Mungle's Dairy Farm in Atoka. And back when I was in high school. Yeah, oh yeah, Guernseys, yeah. And I drank more chocolate milk there than I've ever drank in my life and got sicker than a dog and threw up on the person in front of me in the van. So I feel like I just relate already. We're ready to go. So I don't understand this happy and having to pay money. That's kind of, of course, I wouldn't have to pay a lot, to be honest, at being married and with basketball season starting off, you're never that really happy. But hey, I'm glad to be here. The only reason I'm here, I didn't want to be here, but Chris, I shoplifted in 1979 from his store, and he's been holding that over my head for 42 years. So he told me that day, I remember as a kid, he said, you're going to owe me big time one day. And sure enough, about a month ago, he called me. He said, you remember that shoplifting deal? I said, yeah, just held over my head for 42 years. So yeah, I'll be there ready to go. I will take questions here at the end. You need to know a little bit about how I got here. I started my coaching career right here in Stillwater, America. And as Chris said, I'm from Marlow. My father, my mother, my brother all graduated from Baylor. I was the deviant of the family. I came to Oklahoma State. At that time, we referred to as the Harvard of the Midwest. And when I came to Oklahoma State, I went straight to the college work-study program. My dad was a Southern Baptist minister. And we didn't have a lot of money, so I came to OSU, and I got 2 scholarships to come to Oklahoma State. I got a $50 savings bond from the American Legion, which has now matured to about $114. One of these days, I'm going to kick it in. And I received a Lions Club scholarship that was $65. So I came to Oklahoma State on a $115 scholarship, and I had to work my way. And my first assignment, of all places, was Gallagher Hall. And my first assignment was with Sam Aubrey and Mr. Iba. And Dorothy Miller was the secretary at that time, absolutely the meanest woman on the face of the earth. I thought my dad had preached about the devil, and I called my dad and I said, the devil resides in this office and she's a female. So that woman scared me to death. But I went to Oklahoma State, worked out here, was around Mr. Iba all the time. And in 1978, I was elected governor of Oklahoma Boys State. And I thought I was going to be the next governor of Oklahoma. And I traveled with David Bourne in his gubernatorial campaign. And for those of you old enough to remember, and that looking in the crowd, that's most of you. David Bourne, remember, sweep out old guard politics, and he had the broom. Well, I carried the broom. I'm the guy. I'd walk behind him. I got a broom. And it was an unbelievable experience. And I thought, I knew when I graduated, because of him being in Washington, I was going to get to go back. I was going to get to work in Washington. And I got up here and I fell in love with basketball. Paul Hinson's first year was my first year. And, Paul was unbelievable. Couldn't hear a lick, which was probably one of the greatest assets a coach could have. Barry, how are you? And you'd tell him, and you can say, Paul, I've got bunions and I'm not feeling, that's great. But decided I just wanted to coach. I was around it so much. And I interviewed 5 times to be a college coach. Went 0 for 5. I'm like the Abraham Lincoln of college coaching. And the Oral Roberts University job came open. They interviewed 4 guys. They interviewed me, Andy Stoglin from Arkansas, Tim Carter from Northwestern, and some guy named Bill Self from Oklahoma State. And I was not ready. I knew I wasn't ready. And Bill had promised that if he got the job, he'd hire me. So in my 8-hour interview, I don't know how you could ever interview somebody 8 hours, but I interviewed 8 hours with Oral Roberts. All I talked about was Bill. When Bill got in there, he talked about me. And then of all things, Richard kind of played I don't know if it was a trick. It was just really different at the time, but Richard called me on a Saturday and said, we decided we're going to hire Tim Carter from Northwestern, and we want to know if you'll be his assistant because we really want you here at Oral Roberts. And so this was my chance to be a Division I college basketball coach. And I just felt like at the time that this was exactly what I want to do for my life and my career. And so I said, now you're telling me I can be an assistant coach at Oral Roberts, but I got to come with Tim Carter. And he said, yep, that's exactly right. And I said, well, I know Tim and I think he's a really good guy. But I said, in my interview, I talked about one guy and I talked about Bill Self. And I said, I appreciate it. I just can't do it. And so I am depressed as all get out because salary's going to go up, all this being college coaching. And Sunday night, I get a phone call from Bill at 10:25. And he said, President Roberts getting ready to call you. He said, we're going to be the next head coach and assistant coach at Oral Roberts University. Little known to that, Richard was just testing out my loyalty at the time. Thank God I answered that question right. But we called it 10:25 because back in that day, we didn't have any. You wanted to put it before the news when the news went to bed. So we didn't want it to leak out. And we had the press conference on Monday at Oral Roberts for 6 years. Went with Bill. Bill went to Tulsa. I became the head coach at Oral Roberts University. I was there 2 years as the head coach. When Steve Alford left to go to Iowa, I got the job at that time. It's called Southwest Missouri State. And then it became later Missouri State. And then I was there 9 years. 9 years at Missouri State University. Graduated 49 out of 53 players. Did not have one NCAA violation. And every year when they brought up the top five programs of the top 5 RPIs not to get in the NCAA tournament, 3 of those were my team. We had a 21 RPI that did not get in, a 32 and a 34. And to this day, still, they don't use the RPI. They use it, but it's not one of the matrix. But still to this day, the lowest RPI team to never get in. I'll never forget, Bob Huggins was at K-State. They were 57, and he was going nuts on television. Nuts, just going off on ESPN. And I'm sitting there watching him, and I'm going, and we're 36 spots lower than you, big boy, and didn't get in the NCAA tournament. They fired me after 9 years. And we'd gone to postseason play to the NIT 4 years and got beat to go to the Madison Square Garden at Louisville when Rick Pitino was coaching there. Had a great career, but it was probably one of the hardest things I'd ever been through in my life. For 27 years, I'd gone to work every single day, every day. And then all of a sudden, I'm with my wife every single day, 24/7. That's the hardest thing I've ever been through. I mean, I hope nobody ever has to. I'm never retiring. I can tell you that right now. I mean, I may be having a food truck down here on about the corner, but I'm not, I can't, there's no way, because either we're going to be on 48 hours. I'll just put it that way. Somebody's going to be investing that. I can tell you that right now. But I got out of Missouri State and didn't have a job. And then once again, Bill Self rescues me. I went up to the University of Kansas, stayed there 4 years. And my last game at Kansas, we played in the national championship game in the Superdome in New Orleans. And Anthony Davis, which is now with the Lakers, was on that team. And Kentucky won the national championship that year. But I had a chance to coach at the Final Four. I'll never forget the national championship on a Monday night. Got my hand over my heart during the national anthem, watching the group, the Fray out of Denver, sing the national anthem. And I'm looking straight across at Calipari, and I've known John my whole life. And I'm just sitting here saying the whole time, I'm a boy from Marlow, Oklahoma. I'm from Marlow, Oklahoma. And it was just a great time. When I was at Kansas for 4 years, we only lost one game as I sit on that bench at home, only one. And it was the night Thomas Robinson's mother died. And we had no chance. And Texas beat us, Rick Barnes and Texas beat us. That's the only game I ever sit on the home floor at Allen Fieldhouse and lost. So it was really an interesting time. And then all of a sudden, Southern Illinois University called. They actually called Coach Self and got permission to talk to me. And when they were having their heyday, the Sweet 16s and all that, at Missouri State, we beat them more than anybody else in the league. And so the athletic director at that time said, that's the guy we're going to hire. And I went to Southern Illinois for 7 years. My athletic director, my last year, is the interim head football coach at TCU, Jerry Kill. So this is a big weekend. And I told Coach Boynton, I said, TCU will beat Baylor. I promise you. They will beat them because that guy can flat out coach. And he just an old school, rough guy from Southwest Kansas. But if you remember, he was the head coach at Minnesota and had to get out of coaching because of his seizures and had a medical condition. And his wife's not real happy right now, but he's got it in his blood. And I'm just telling you, I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game. Now, let's get one thing straight. I love Coach Kill. I hope we kick the hell out of him. So just let's sure we get that point out there real quick. But I'll get to go see him before the game down on the field. And but I promise you, this isn't going to be. I saw where the line was set like at 12. I'm going, whoo, there's no way. I think it'll be a close game, and I hope it's not. But I think it'll be a heck of a football game. If you were at our basketball game the other night, how many came? Did anybody? We're a little longer and more athletic, aren't we? Yeah. When I first got here, most of the guys on the floor were my height, and well, maybe just a little bit taller, but we are now, you can always tell as a coach when you get bigger and more athletic, because when I first got here, this would be the floor and you could just go out there and just coach. It'd be running up, down. You just coach. You get out there right now, it's like being on I-35 going to Edmond. You're going to get run over. So, I mean, it's just big. The game, the court has all shrunk for us. Even during the sidelines, you could just tell. The other night, you know, UTA couldn't get a shot off. They couldn't get a shot off because of our length. And it's nice to have that. And that's, I don't know if you watch much of the NBA, but that's the way the NBA's headed. We are a non-positional going into a sport where you don't have positions anymore. The days of the back to the basket, the Bob Curlins, I mean, those days are few and far between. And I think it was 2 years ago in the draft, the first back to the basket player was taken in the second round. Not even in the first round. If you can't pass, dribble, and shoot, now you can't play. You got to be able to do them all. And if you can't, then you've got to be able to do something really, really well, like be an unbelievable defensive player or be a great offensive rebounder. But that's about it. And because the game has dramatically changed. We're on Zoom. I know this is recorded. I'd like to give the wave to the NCAA, but I won't. It is so bad. And I will say this. Everybody's asked me my thoughts and everything on it. I wish you could have been in that room. We got called in at 9:30. that night. Coach was in Branson at a prep school, flew back in at 9:30, did not want our players to hear it from anybody but him first. And nobody knew. And we come in there at 9:30 and, we're going to meet at 9:30 at night. Something's not right. And coach went into it and told the guys. And I just, we sometimes sports, and we tie this into like life or death. It's not death. It's not. It's not near as dramatic. It's not the level of death. But for those kids, it's probably one of the most disappointing things that could ever happen. And to see the reactions in their faces, to see those eyes that were glassed over because someone had taken that away from them, was probably as hard a moment as I've had, with the exception of CBS was in our basement when we were 21 in the RPI, in our basement, following us. And when that last bracket came up, we weren't on that last bracket. And it was that moment when you've done everything you can do, both sides, and it didn't come to fruition. I couldn't be any more proud of Mike Boynton than any coach I've ever been around in my life. That press conference was absolutely the best press conference that I've ever seen as a coach. Pure and raw emotion. And I hope we won't let it die. I know there's certain sports commentators, sports writers that won't let it die. I keep telling people we all make mistakes. You can go back and you can change it anytime you want. And I just think that's the message that we keep sending to the NCAA until the last day we play. Why not? Why can't you change your mind? They set precedent in what they did to us. Why can't you set precedent in the way that you change what we've done in the past? And it was just one of those moments. So it was just hard for those kids. On the flip side of that, I don't think I've ever witnessed a head coach being able to get his team back and ready to play with as much enthusiasm and as much energy as we had the other night. Now, the exhibition game was probably the most well-attended exhibition game in the OSU after that ruling. But we hadn't seen anybody. We just got tired of looking at each other. We needed to play somebody else. And the exhibition game, there were several elderly women, which none of the women in here are elderly, but there were several elderly women in the front rows in the first exhibition game that wore football helmets because of our passing. We're just going everywhere. And there was an orthodontist trying to figure out if he could be an advertiser for the next game. We just had things going everywhere. But we finally settled down when we played UTA. And, and I know the coach at UTA. And at that game was over, I immediately went home that night and put him on my prayer list because they're pretty bad. And I remember back when I was at Oral Roberts, we were so bad. And a guy yelled from the stands, "You're going to need more than Oral to help your team." So, we put him on the prayer list right away. Coach is going to have a long season, I think, with the UTA kids. But we're going to have a good game tomorrow night. We play Oakland. They don't play a lick of defense on the other end. Nope, they play zone, junior high zone. Stand, look at you, shoot. But on the other end, they can flat out score. They can flat out score. And they almost beat West Virginia the other night. West Virginia beat them 7, I think. And they shot 28 threes and didn't make a lot. Greg Campy has been the head coach at Oakland University for 38 years. You keep a job for 38 years as a coach, you belong in the Hall of Fame, regardless of what your record is. But the guy can flat out coach, and he can definitely coach offense. I recruited against Greg 3 years ago. It's a true story. Greg Campy had a player at Oakland because they shoot lots of threes. He had a player at Oakland that did not take a point shot in the entire season. Not one. He shot like 328 threes. did not shoot. Their teams, if we would have played them, I would have said, let him have a layup. Don't guard it. Just here, layup. Come on. But it got to the point where teams knew it so bad that overplay wouldn't go back door. He was going to shoot a three. And so we were recruiting against Greg. And this dad asked me, he said, well, what, Oakland's recruiting him, and they've said he shoot a three time he touches the ball. I said, well, that's great. That's great. At our place, he can shoot a three anytime he's open. How about that? Not when he touches it, but when he's open. And he, what do you think about the other end of the floor? The other end of the floor, you got a problem. He's going to have to figure out to get in a defensive stance. And he's going to have to play defense for me. He committed to Oakland the next day, and so that didn't last long at all. But you'll enjoy the game, and then we play Prairie View on Sunday. We play 5 games in 8 days. I mean, it's just boom, boom, boom. We're going to get on a plane Monday. We're going to head out and play UMass Lowell and in the first game, and then North Carolina State in the second game, and have 5 games underneath our belt in 8 days. But we need it, and we've got an unbelievable schedule. Coach Chew, he took a big chew this year. We've got Oral Roberts at ORU. We're going to play USC in Oklahoma City. We're going to play Houston and Kelvin Sampson's squad down in Fort Worth at a neutral site. And we play Xavier on a Sunday afternoon right here in Gallagher, Iowa, which will be an unbelievable game. And then, of course, the Big 12 basketball season starts off. And it is our season. It is our season because that's right now. We're just trying to convince the kids that's what we've got to play for. And it'll be a continuous battle, but it'll really become the highlight more likely in February when people start talking about where teams are in the tournament and all that. And that's when it'll be a challenge for us as a staff to make sure our guys will stay connected. And this is what we're going to do. And I think the league's going to be really good next year. You watched Kansas play the other night when they played Michigan State. Once again, they're really good. Baylor's good. Texas is loaded. Texas is, some people think this is the number 1 team in the country. And then of course, Bedlam with OU. And I coached against Porter Moser, the coach at OU. I coached against him 21 times. And so I know Porter. I know what he does. I know all his ins and outs and know him extremely well. So I'm glad he went to OU because I don't like, we're on Zoom, aren't we? Yeah. I don't have any more pleasure beating anybody else than OU. So I can't wait till that game and to be able to help out. I'll open it up for questions and you guys can ask me questions. Yep. Chris said that alarm went off. He said, that's it. Cut it down to questions. And then I have to repeat the question. It's not the hard of hearing. It's the damn Zoomers. Hard of hearing. Question I'm going to have. So fire away. First of all, I'm like, I don't know what they do either. So that you and I must be related in some form or fashion. Kansas took a different route. They went through a mediation route, but in the mediation route in which they went, there is no appeal process. So the mediation route is a separate group of people randomly chosen that here's the case, supposedly without the NCAA's influence. We chose to do what the NCAA does because we were so confident that we had already done everything we were supposed to do. We gave them every bit of information, handed it over to them, did not hide one thing. Matter of fact, was proactive in everything we did. And that's why the guys were saying at the end, don't ever give them anything else ever again. I'm a boy. But I coached at Kansas for 4 years, and I coached Bill Self. He read me their violations. It's an absolute joke. I went through every one of them. This was 3 years ago when I went up there, and he said, can you believe, and he read all the violations. And the first thing I said was, you've made somebody mad at the NCAA. That's it. And he called them out after they won the Maui Classic in Hawaii on ESPN. They had a kid that the NCAA had proven ineligible. And he wasn't. And he said he'll be back playing for January. And he went after. I guess the NCAA made a comment. He was too cavalier. But I'm telling you today, everybody wants to rile up about what they did, the 5 violations that they have that they've said. I'm telling you, I know them. And in 4 years that I was there, not once did they ever do anything illegal. So it's easy to do that, to jump on and all these people and stuff, but there's nobody quoted to saying we offered him a shitload of money like the guy did at LSU. And that's a whole different story, but it wasn't shitload. I think it was something else. That's paraphrase for those who are Zooming at this time. Well, I've had a chance to be at, a lot of them. The Maui Classic is a high school gym. Groups come in, groups come out, and it's packed. And I mean, packed. Literally hanging over the rafters, the teams. That was pretty special. When you take 4 universities or 2 universities of that magnitude, for example, we played Duke in the finals. When you have Duke on one side and KU on the other side, it's so loud, it's electric. Madison Square Garden was unbelievable. I loved playing in the Garden. I thought it was awesome. As a Jayhawk coming in here and playing in this building, it was one of the toughest places we had to play. I would tell everybody, if you ever get a chance to go to Allen Fieldhouse, it's a bucket list. People would ask me to explain it all the time. I can't. It's hard to explain. You just can't explain it. I was there when Missouri decided they were going to the Southeast Conference, and they were ranked I think they were ranked in the top 5, and we played them. And we were down the entire game and made a basket at the end to send it into overtime. And I remember in the timeout in overtime, Coach Self yelling at the top of his lungs, and none of our players could hear a word. None of us could not hear a word. And my ears rang for 2 days. But that's how it used to be in this building. You remember it in the days of Coach Sutton. I remember it in the days. I remember when Eddie Halfcourt Hannon hit the shot to beat Louisville. I remember when Big Country turned around and hit the 3 to go into overtime. I mean, it was unbelievable, the sound. And I remember my greatest memory of Gallagher is when we pinned Dr. Death. I mean, you can say it's loud for basketball. Hey, I'm just telling you, if there's anybody got a chance, but the Wrestlers can brag that one out, because that's the loudest moment that's ever been, Gallagher. But this building here is special. I was so sad last year that Cat didn't get a chance to see it. Here with Oklahoma, Kansas, whatever. I mean, we'll be at capacity. We'll sell out. We know that. And Xavier, hopefully, will be a sellout. But it's going to be interesting to see. And our kids have already talked about 2 games we've had. We had 8,000 for Texas Arlington. Right, almost 8,000. And our kids were like, God, this is unbelievable. I'm thinking, them guys, you have no clue. Just wait. Because they don't know any better. The freshmen and sophomore, they don't know any better. That's as loud as they think it gets. So it'll be interesting to see when we have a packed crowd. Yes, sir. You Zoomers get that? So wants to know what's happened there. I forgot to repeat these questions, Chris. Wants to know what happens when we take a huddles. Our hands are over, which my hand will be over my mouth. It's like a West Virginia football game, and I'm a drunk West Virginian. Yeah, I do it all the time. You're right. It's just, with that changed about probably 5-10 years ago. TV timeouts now are anywhere from 2 minutes and 15 seconds to 2 minutes and 45 seconds. What? I don't know how you guys are there. Man, I can't talk to my wife for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, much less my team. So we decided, that we just kind of huddle up. Everybody gives their thoughts, and you have to pick and choose. You really have to do that. Being a head coach for 18 years at the college level, at the Division I level, I pick and choose my times. I know when the time to talk is, and I know when the time not to talk is. I just, you get a feel for it. Coach Sutton is like that. Scott is like, Scott's been a head coach for 18 years, 15 years. And, but he knows, bless you, but he knows. And, so it's just, we may say something defensively, we may something offensively, I don't mind telling you, when Ice dribbled the ball for 20 seconds the other day in the entire shot clock, we had a timeout. I said, Coach, you got to get Ice's ass out of there. That's what I said. I mean, it ain't rocket science, and it's not like we're over there trying to geometry. It's pretty basic and pretty simple. Or you say, Coach, that number one is really quick. We might want to back up a little bit. And then you get the look, you get what I call NSS, the no Sherlock look. Then we go from there. So, but yeah, that's kind of what happens. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Well, yeah, I saw it one time, and it was me. When you get home today, you Google my name. I'm number 7 on top 10 sport rants. Seriously. Yeah. Well, first of all, from a comment from the peanut crowd here, my fraternity brother, Mr. Zimmerman, which I don't know if you ever listened to his interviews on the football game. He gets an award every freaking week at Bank. But I will give him credit. He's here today, so I'm thinking moving my money over to Bank First because my wife gets all those overdraft fees. I'm thinking maybe I got an in. Well, I coached football for 1 year. I'll tell you a great story. Yes, it was. No doubt. So Frank, my basketball coach was Jerry Havens in Marlow, and later became the athletic director here at Stillwater High. The job, when I graduated from Oklahoma State in 1983, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky did not need a head coach at that time. So I decided to start my career at Stillwater Junior High. Coach Havens came and said, we can hire you. You've got your social studies degree. You can teach, but you're going to have to coach football. He said, you played football until your freshman year. I know because you played for me all 4 years. But he said, I want you to go in the interview and tell them you know everything you know about football, but lie about it. Just get the job. Whatever you do, we don't have an opportunity to get a lot of basketball coaches over there. So just tell them you know everything there is to know. You just, whatever they say, yeah, you got it now. I got the job. Next day, junior high football, only in the state of Oklahoma, we have a 5 a.m. staff meeting because we're starting 2-a-days. Now, in football, the linebackers are called strong side is Sam, weak side is Willie. It's just football terminology. So we go in there and they've got on the board when they're in the wishbone, we want Mike here or Sam here and Willie here. Strong side, weak side, whatever. But they don't ever tell me the strong and the weak part. Okay, yeah, it gets better. So he's doing it. So I got on my note, wishbone, Sam's here, Willie's there. Okay. All right, now we go to the veer. Sam's here, Willie's there. We go to this one. Then they add a new one, Mike, for middle linebacker. Okay, we got to add Mike into this here. Okay. All right. Go down, we break out, we go. Now we go to breakout. I've got the linebackers and I've got the dummies set up. I got a quarterback here and a fullback and a wingback and a wingback or halfback for the wishbone. And I've got those dummies set up. I said, all right, when they're in the wishbone, Sam, you get right here, and Willie, you get right there. Nobody moves. Not one guy. Not one guy moved. I go, Sam. And they're all in it. Because we know no Sam's over here. What's your name? Kelly. What's your name? Kevin. What's your name? Bob. What's your name? Oh, he's scared to death. I said, hang on, I'll be right back. So I run down to Frank. Frank's at the other end. I said, Frank, we got a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, Sam and Willie, they didn't come to practice today. And I haven't checked on Mike because we hadn't got to that one yet. He goes, pardon me? I go, no shit. Sam and Willie did not come to practice today. I was proud of myself. Yeah, hey, they didn't come. I didn't go out and kick them off the team. I coached football for 1 year. That's it. And immediately the next day, I was head coach in my area, wide receivers. Didn't coach the linebackers anymore. Hey, son, run fast, catch the ball. That's it. Hey, thank y'all so much. It's great to be back. I love this place. I've had a chance to be a head coach twice since I've been here, and I don't want it. I don't want to do it anymore. I've done it. How in the world could I want to do it anymore when I get an opportunity to make up a shoplifting crime? So thank y'all so much.